Good evening. I'd like to call to order the business meeting for November 16th, 2021. And Eric, I'm sorry, could you lead us in the pledge this evening? Sure. All right, if we can all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, a nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Eric. Next on the agenda is the roll call.
Liz McNaney, President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Vice President.
Here.
Martha Similaro, Commissioner. Here. Catherine Carter, Commissioner.
Here.
Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Michael Clark, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Isaac Kessler, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police. Here. Van Reeker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
And it is noted that Dave Brill, Finance Director, is not here.
Thank you, Deanna. Next on the agenda, I'd like to turn it over to Solicitor Clark.
Thank you. The board held an executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel matters.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I'd like to welcome Chief Duffy to come on up. And
Thank you. If I could have my fellow chiefs join me up here, Chief Geiger, Fire Company, Deputy Chief Coyola, Chief Trail from Lansdale, Chief Renard from Volunteer Medical Service Corps. Thank you. So we're here tonight to honor some first responders who were able to save a life this past September 11th up on Valley Forge Road. Valley Forge Road is a border with Township and Township for us. And I was at a meeting yesterday with Chief Troxel from Township Police, and I was talking about this accommodation that we're going to do tonight. And that I planned on starting off my comments something along the lines of how we're very fortunate to have different departments, police departments, ambulance company, fire company that get along well together in this area and do these type of things on a regular basis and have these strong partnerships. But then I did tell them that when I learned it was town medicine and it involved a vehicle rolling across the road in Upper Gwynedd Township, I double-checked the dispatch notes to make sure it wasn't a town medicine cop there first pushing the car across the street to Upper Gwynedd, because it's kind of known to happen. So with that, what we'd like to do is we're going to pass the mic back and forth here a little bit. I'm going to start with Chief Trail regarding these accommodations. If you could read the first part. There you go.
Absolutely. Whereas on September 11th, 2021, at approximately 2000 hours, Upper Gwynedd Police, Upper Gwynedd Fire Department, and members of the Volunteer Medical Service Corps, the MSC of Lansdale, responded for a report of an unconscious person in a moving vehicle on South Valley Forge Road. It was learned that a 60-year-old male had lost consciousness in a Ford sedan. The vehicle was still moving and creating a hazard to the occupant and to other traffic until off-duty Lansdale police officer James Thompson broke a window and was able to stop the vehicle from moving.
Whereas Officer Thompson was assisted by Deputy Chief Greg Rosado of the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department in extricating the male from the vehicle, assessing his condition, and starting CPR.
Whereas Upper Gwynedd Police Sergeant Raymond Royds and Officer John Gill arrived on scene within 3 minutes of the initial call and began assisting with CPR, including the use of an AED, which was used at least twice in the initial resuscitation efforts.
Whereas while Deputy Chief Rosado drove the ambulance to the hospital, Officer Thompson, VMSC Emergency Medical Technician, EMT, Matt Sinkowitz, and paramedic Tara Malone continued patient care with CPR and additional AED shocks. As a result of the efforts of these first responders, the patient survived and is doing well.
Therefore, Sergeant Raymond Royds, Officers John Gill and James Thompson, Deputy Chief Greg Rosado, Paramedic Tara Malone, and EMT Matt Sinkowitz are recognized with this life-saving commendation for their quick actions and teamwork that ultimately led to the successful treatment and recovery of a person who was in cardiac arrest. Presented with honor and respect the 16th day of November 2021. Could I please ask the honorees to come forward? Not so fast. All right, what's better to do is probably one step back, and then these guys can follow through this way, right? We'll figure it out. Whatever.
And do we shake or do we?
Do we do elbow or shake? Yeah. Congratulations, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations, great job. Congratulations. Thank you. Get the guys.
Actually, we got one more person to call. Okay. So while everyone's still up here, we have one more person to call up.
There's that person that we were all talking about in that citation is in the gallery today. And George, if you'd come on up.
People are usually fighting over this mic at public meetings.
Everybody around me said I'm the luckiest person in the world, but I can tell you it's really comes down to the skill and the training and the determination of these guys here. That's why I'm here today. That is really, that's the whole reason why. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody involved. And see you in football.
Oh, yeah. You can use the mic to encourage everyone to stay for the whole meeting.
Yeah, let's go.
You guys got to be in front.
With the staff. We're trying to be in that. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Township Manager, Sandra Giselle, I'm sure you're all welcome to stay for the meeting. But then again, if not, now's a good time.
There's our crowd.
Yeah.
He told me to invite them to stay for the budget. I said I don't want to do that to them.
Oh, they look so good in their uniforms.
I'm sorry?
They look so handsome
I
in their
know.
uniform.
So glad that one could be in person.
That was nice. Boy, that man is a lucky guy. Wow. Unbelievable. You want those guys near you.
That's right.
Sandra? Any news on Dave? Good?
Send prayers. Send prayers.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we'd like to recognize Deanna Logan for her 5 years of service to the township. Deanna has worked for the township for 5 years and for 5 managers. Deanna is responsible for so many behind-the-scenes important touches that make our administration function seamlessly. The agenda and the minutes that are so important to our meetings are her work product. In the 5 years, she has put together close to 200 meeting packets. She is also in the integral part of the transparency in the township, serving as our lead on most open record requests at the township, where the average, she coordinates upwards on an average of 60 requests per year. Deanna completes special projects for the EAC, the HRC, and the UGCA, as well as the Board of Commissioners. Deanna serves as the unofficial chair of our Wellness and Healthy Snacks, as well as our in-house charity initiatives that have raised over $6,000 in funds for Men on Main, colorectal cancer, our own K-9 unit, and breast cancer research. Anytime we have a celebration at the township, Deanna is the woman in charge behind the scenes, making it a great party to remember, like our recent whip ribbon cutting ceremony. I think, if I may take a couple minutes, I think underneath her outfit, she has a Wonder Woman cape on and a shirt on, because Deanna really is the heart of this building. And when we need something, we always hate to ask Deanna, but we know she'll know the answer or where it is. So Deanna, we thank you so much for your 5 years of service.
I just want to add that Deanna serves as my assistant, and I really couldn't do any of the things that I do for the township without you. You really make my world run seamlessly, and I appreciate it. You know I do. So thank you so much for the great job you do for me.
Anybody else?
And I'll add, she does the same thing for the board because she keeps us all straight.
Thank you so much, Deanna, for everything.
Deanna, when I saw this, I thought it was a typo because I was like, there's no way she's only been here 5 years. That's ridiculous. Because you're such part of the fabric here. There's so much that you know. You're like the expert about everything that I still am in awe that it's only been 5 years. I mean, it looks like it's, not even been 5 years based on you, how you look.
That's definitely true.
Deanna, for everything. Moving right along, public comments. We do have a 5-minute limit, and if you want to come up to the microphone, if you would just state your name and address so we can get it on the record. Do we have anybody? Close. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, my name is Dave Kenyon, and I live at 1000 South Broad Street in Upper Gwynedd. And I really appreciate all the police being here and all that, because now I know, or at least I get to see some of the people that might be kicking me out of my house, that from Mr. Martin's property that you're trying to kick me out of. So, kicking me out of my house like that it's not good. Are you going to kick us out of our family home? No answer?
The board is not moving forward with any plans to condemn the property at this time.
Excellent.
Mr. Martin has expressed an interest in developing the property, and he has an open invitation to come back to the board at any time to show his plans for developing the property.
Excellent. So we're all worried that the police are going to come at any time and try to get us out of there.
Well, that's not how it would have worked anyway.
I've never been evicted before in my life.
so-
I've been on my own for 30-some odd years.
But that's not that's not the way it would have happened anyway. But Mr. Martin has indicated he wants to develop the property, and we have invited him to come and meet with us at any time to show us what his plans are for developing the property.
Well, that's good. Well, I appreciate that information then. So we're not, at this time, under threat of being evicted.
No.
You've never been under
No.
threat of being.
Well, we didn't know that. All we know is that, the town wants to take the property and repurpose the house. Me and my wife were sitting there, read it in the paper, and it's like, they're pointing right at us saying, we want to repurpose our house. Imagine if that happened to anybody else. Imagine how you would feel if you saw that in the paper. Mr. Martin found out that you were voting on it on September because a friend of mine told me about the article in the paper, and I told Mr. Martin. He didn't even know you were going to vote on it.
Well, that's somewhat surprising because I was in conversations with Mr. Martin's attorney long before September about the possibility that the township might be looking to take the property.
He knew,
So-
might, yes. He didn't know the vote. I told him 3 days before the vote, and he drove all the way down.
Well, maybe that was a problem with communication between Mr. Martin and his attorney because his attorney was aware of what was going on.
Right. And there's another problem also, if I have another second or so. During the last campaign, there were some flyers put out that Mr. Martin didn't live in the township for 14 years. That's not true. He lived right around the corner from that property. He moved out of there when he sold the property to develop. He lived in that white house. That's a lie. Whoever put that on their things, you two, that's a lie. And that's all I have to say.
Can I say that? Sir, I just want to add something to what you just said. We found a record from 1988 where Mr. Martin was on one of our volunteer boards. And in 1988, he resigned from that board because he was moving out of state. That's what his letter said to us. So he hasn't, as far as we knew, he hasn't lived here. We were wrong saying 14 years. It was actually over 30 years in 1988 when he wrote that letter resigning. So, yeah. And I just want to also, that he moved out. So the other issue is we did have a meeting scheduled, was it last week?
Ninth.
The 9th, and Mr. Martin canceled. We were all ready, and he canceled. So we're just waiting for him to reschedule because we're here and ready to talk to him.
It's his land and he's the boss on it.
Right?
We're just worried that we're going to get kicked out.
No, that's not how it works. Thank you. Anyone else? You can keep your mask on. We can hear. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lawrence with a U, Williamson. And I live at the Martin House. And I've been there about 4.5. And of course, I just love the old place. But again, I'm 75 years old and veteran. And of course, I have a chronic health issue called cystic fibrosis, where I need a nebulizer 3 or 4 days, to keep my lungs clear. So I just wanted to point out that, of course, if we should lose the old place, that would be a huge burden. And at this point, it would look like I would just wind up being another homeless veteran. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I want to thank the commissioners just for listening to my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your service. Anyone else? Okay.
My name is Jim McLaughlin, and I live at the same residence, and I'm pleading with you not to kick me to the curb. I have nowhere to go but the street. And I just want you to look at the faces of the people that would be saddened to lose their home. And what would the other residents, the other residents in the town, if they could do it to us, they could do it to them too. I mean, you got to think about the people that you're affecting when you when you condemn somebody's land. So please don't condemn our home. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Anyone else?
President McNamee, you do have one more.
Hi, Fred Hankin, 802 Clover Drive. I don't know if there's a Q&A or not, but I see on your agenda today regarding a compensation for off-duty care and training of assigned police canines. Who's paying for that, and do we know how much that's going to cost per year?
Chief Duffy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything, nothing.
My other question was, it seems like this township has money to spend on, taking over this property and using public funds. I'm just curious, if we have so much money, maybe the commissioners might consider a millage decrease. I was out and about quite a bit the last several weeks, and I heard from numerous residents about difficulties they were having in paying bills and so forth. And if we have all this cash as opposed to taking over this property, and we don't even know what the costs are going to be because of condemnation and what that process does for people. But is there any thought to maybe doing something like that if we have all this money that we're paying into?
I think Sandra will address that in the budget tonight. Yes. Do you want to stay for
Yeah,
that?
I didn't know if I was allowed to comment during that period of time or not, but.
You can make comments on the budget now and then ask questions.
Well, that was my question, so maybe.
Your question is, are we
My question
considering
is,
a millage?
if we're flush with cash, is there not a consideration for a millage decrease? When they did the 1% wage increase or tax back in 2003, most of us probably remember that. I know there was a decrease in the millage because we had obviously extra money than we needed because of the fact we had to do that or else. But I'm just curious, is there any thought or consideration for that from this board?
So, Mr. Henkin, I'm glad you asked that question because it's a great question. And I think after my budget presentation, you'll see, especially after we review the new 5-year capital plan, that we have plenty of unfunded liabilities that we still need to work on. So I think stay for the presentation, and if you still have that question afterwards, I'm happy to answer it.
I'll be here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dennis Sinelli. I live at 34 Elbow Lane. I like to mirror the comments of the people that live at the Martin House. And I also wanted to thank Liz. She's aware that my home backs up to a park, Rexdale Park. And we're not taking care of the parks we already have. We need a lot of help. The open spaces in this township have really gone to pot. I'm glad that we're actually getting some attention now, and it is much appreciated, and I look forward to any help. The last time I was here before you guys, before last meeting, it was over the basing controversy. And my main point was we already had a basin there that was being neglected and fell into total disrepair. And I know it cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair that basin. We're going to be looking at big expenses if we don't take care of what we already have. I don't know whether you have money allocated for resources in the future.
We do.
Because we haven't had it in the past. So I just wanted to drive that point home and get it on the public record. I want to thank Liz personally for her attention to our area. And before we go condemning someone's property to build a park, let's take care of what we have already. If you're worried about keeping it open space and you don't want him to develop it and build it, you have thousands of arrows in your quiver to keep him from building. You just don't give him the zoning. That's one of them. But I don't think that condemnation is the proper thing to do there. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. I'm just a lay person. But it just doesn't seem like the right way to go about it. And I'm very curious as to why the Township Board wants this property out of all the properties in Upper Gwynedd. Why this one? What's the real reason? I suspect there's an underlying reason. I'd like that to be made public. Thank you.
Dennis, just as a follow-up to that pole that's held up by by the rope, we got word back from Pico. I was texting Karen today. We got back from Pico that it's Verizon. So we have a
spoke to
call
Verizon
into
today.
Verizon.
Yeah.
So we're working, but you said it was from Sandy, 12 years? Yeah.
Well, I hope it doesn't take me, another 12 years to get it fixed. So we'll try to get it done faster than
The
that.
last pole that got replaced was in my backyard between Joe and Martha and I.
Mhm.
9 years. That's not ours, that's Verizon's. No, that's not ours. That's Pico's.
That's a common issue,
So,
yeah.
good luck. Took me almost 9 years, and the pole was broken, and my wires were tied up in a tree for 15 years.
We're on it now.
I like a challenge. Let's see if I can do better than 9 years.
Oh, and then when they did put the pole in, they got the stinkiest pole. We couldn't open our windows for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
It had some kind of crazy creosote on it. We smelled every pole in the area, new ones that they dropped. They purposely gave us the stinkiest pole you have ever seen in your entire
Well, we're on it now, Dennis.
Also, Mr. Sinelli, I hope you stay for the budget presentation because you'll hear about our open space plans.
Oh, we have somebody else, right? Yeah.
No, you get one shot of it.
And of course, you've had Dave come up here, and I too live at Mr. Martin's house. And I know he had voiced his concerns with us, and we voiced our concerns with him, and I realize he's got stuff he's trying to do, but we were also looking at it as, well, with all the budgeting and stuff, I mean, by taking down half that land, you're gonna have half the animals that are already back there in the road. And it's already got problems with that light there, with people and accidents constantly going on. They're always ending up in his field because of that light area, which is always being run, and no one's done anything about that. So, I mean, these are just so many outlining issues that we're wondering, okay, well, even if you do throw us out and stuff, that whole area, then what? I mean, how's it gonna be maintained? How are you gonna keep all the animals out of the road then? You know, I mean, they go from field to field and then back to the woods. Take those out, they got nowhere to go but the park and everywhere else and into the road. So it's gonna present even more of a problem than just that light at that corner. So, I mean, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think what's,
State your name.
Jeanette Lewis.
Yeah, Jeanette.
I think what's important that everybody should understand is when Mr. Martin came to us in September, we said, okay, we'll take it off. We're not talking about it anymore until we meet with him. And we're just waiting for him. It's off, and we have no intention of kicking anybody out of their home. Our intention is to do what we said we would do and what we promised Mr. Martin, and that was to meet with him and see what kind of compromise. And that's why tonight it's not on our agenda, because we don't have anything to share, anything more.
We were just more concerned with all this stuff, I mean, with the roads and everything and the way things are going with that area. I mean, I know Mr. Martin was trying to figure out a way on how to keep it kind of closed off to where it doesn't create such a problem and he doesn't end up with car parts in his fields from the lights and everything else.
Oh, we're waiting.
Yeah, consistently.
Chief Duffy, maybe you could, that's at Broad Street, right? Broad and Allentown.
Right there on Allentown Road, yeah, right there at that crossroad. Bad.
And you know, another thing,
We can't, we have to move on, but sir, if you want to, come on up.
Hi, Dave Valero, 875 Clover Drive. I wasn't going to comment, but something you just said when Mr. Martin came to you in September, excuse me, you took it off. I think that's a little bit of a disingenuous statement. You actually voted on it that night, and if it wasn't for a missing commissioner, it very well may have passed. So I think that's wrong to state when he came to you, took it off. So that's all I wanted to say.
I think it's wrong to state how one of our commissioners would have voted. It's not fair to state how one of our commissioners would have voted, because we don't know, she wasn't here. So that's kind of,
True point, but the
Yeah.
point is you did vote on it. You didn't take it off, it was voted on. Could very well have passed. So you didn't change your mind to not even vote on it, okay? I just want to make that clear.
okay.
And I think it's also important to make clear that it has not come back on an agenda. It is not planned to come back on agenda, and we are all waiting on Mr. Martin to show us his development plans, which if he decides to develop the track in completely, there's a lot of conversation about, you're saying the township is going to be throwing people off the property. But if Mr. Martin develops the entire tract, then we're not exactly sure what would happen with any of the people who are living on it now. And that would be his decision if he gets to develop it the way he would like to develop it. So right now we are waiting on him and to see what plans he has to develop the property.
All fair points, just wasn't what happened in September.
But he was aware of what was happening, as our solicitor said. Yeah, he was aware. Anyone else? Mr. Hankin, you already had your turn, so we're going to move on. So next on the agenda. We asked for everybody, public comment is when you come up. It's limit to 5 minutes per individual, and you already came up. Do we know how much time he spent?
No, I've reset it.
Yeah, we reset it. Thank you. Moving on in the agenda, item number 8 is a motion to approve the consent items A through K. All of these A through K are in our packets. We've all had a chance to review them. They include public meeting minutes, MERC waiver requests. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any public comment on any of those items? Hearing none. Any additional board comment? Hearing none. Deanna?
President McNaney,
Aye.
Vice President Hull,
Aye.
Commissioner Similaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
The ayes so have it. Thank you. Next on the agenda, what everybody's been waiting for, the proposed reading of the 2022 budget. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sandra.
Megan, can you bring up the presentation? Oh. Megan, I just realized there's links in the presentation that you're probably not going to be able to bring up. It's going to be a problem. Okay. All right, I'll work through it. Okay, can you go to the next slide? So our budget process in Upper Gwynedd Township starts not anytime soon to tonight. It starts way back in the spring when our department heads work to create their budget requests. They meet with the township manager, our finance director, and board of commissioner liaisons to go through their department-specific requests. Staff present the budget in 2 public work sessions, which we did in October to the board, followed by 2 public board of commissioner meetings. This is the first of 2. We currently have a balanced budget requiring no tax increase for 2022. And after tonight, hopefully the budget will be advertised and scheduled for final approval at the Board of Commissioners 12/21 board meeting. So I always like to start talking about the budget by looking back in 2021, the year that we're currently in, to see how things are looking. So revenue is looking good. Our revenue is forecast at $1.3 million over budget, and our expenses are trending under budget, which is great news. Why is our revenue so over budget is a question you might ask when you hear that. And the real reason is COVID-19 had far less of an impact on our revenues than we expected. A major factor is that EIT and LST were very strong. We didn't have, those are our earned income tax and local services tax. So that means the employment is very strong within the township, which is very good. The people that work in the township and the people that live in the township that are employed seem to be doing well and didn't have a negative impact as much as we expected when we were making the 2021 budget. Additionally, real estate transfer tax is trending over budget as well, $159,000 over budget. So we will end the year, this year, with a surplus of $21,473, even after transferring $1.7 million to our capital reserves. So the transfer to capital reserves is similar to transferring money from your checking account to your savings account. So it's like saving for future capital improvements. And capital improvements, in our case, are for equipment and major maintenance concerns, things like that. There's a little breakdown on the slide of specifically what types of spending we saved on in our expense line. And all of these items on this slide really give us the opportunity in 2022, looking forward to the 22 budget, to really make some solid infrastructure improvements in 2022 for the township. This is a new slide in the budget presentation. It shows where our municipal tax rate is in Upper Gwynedd. The lowest would be over to the left with Worcester Township, and this includes every municipality in Montgomery County, and the highest would be to the right with Norristown. And we are, I believe it's the 17th lowest, and you can see the red arrow, so that's where we are with our general fund millage. Just sort of gives you a good idea of our benchmark compared to other municipalities. So, Megan, you can try clicking on that general funds link, but you know what, we can work around that. If you can go to the budget, to the agenda and click on the appropriations line item. No, go to the agenda. There we go. And scroll down to item 11. Nope, next item. If only the technology allowed me to control my own presentations. Sorry, Megan. Number 11. 11. There you go. And scroll down to the actual appropriations. There we go. Perfect. So this is a breakdown of our actual appropriations that'll be advertised per fund, by fund. I'm just going to get to my page here. So the first section of appropriations relate to our general fund. And those total revenue equals $16,553.46. $16,658.46. And you can see how they're broken out according to taxes, interfund transfers, federal, state, and county grants, and down the line. You can also see our expenses, and these are general fund expenses only, and they go through each of our major spending items. And then as you scroll down, you can see our other funds, which are the liquid fuels funds. These are the funds we use to pay for mainly our road program. And again, those expenses meet those revenues. And then our sanitary sewer fund, which is our wastewater fund. And that is what will be advertised as part of the technical reading of the budget. But we will get into a lot more detail. Also, after we go through the presentation tonight, if the board does vote to advertise those fund appropriations, the actual budget book, which has the full detail, will be available here at the Township building and also on our website. So you can break it down into far more detail than what is shown just on those funds. Next slide, Megan. So this is a slide that shows the breakdown of our total revenue per revenue source. So as you can see, by far our strongest revenue source is earned income tax, followed by real estate taxes, and then transfers. The transfers are transfers within our own funds. So when you saw, for example, the liquid fuels fund, we transfer from our liquid fuels fund to our general fund to be able to pay for our street projects and things like that. We transfer in and out of our capital reserve funds, which I'll talk about later. So our top 7 sources of revenue in the township are earned income tax, real estate taxes, including transfers, and Federal American Recovery Act funds. That's a new one that we added this year that I'll speak about. Local services taxes, permits and fees, and real estate transfer taxes. Okay. This is a 3-year comparison of our major sources of general fund revenue. As you can see, when they're broken into a chart like this, which is showing millions, it doesn't look like there's very much variation looking back to 2019 and forward to 2022. But there has been a little bit of variation. The good news is our revenues are relatively stable, especially in areas like the real estate taxes, local services taxes, state pension funds. One area where we've seen pretty significant growth is earned income tax. Since 2019, we've seen an increase of about $923,000 per year, or this year compared to 2019. And here's a similar chart comparing spending back to 2018 to our current budgeted spending in general fund expenses, broken down by our main departments. So expenses are up, but that's because we have a serious influx of state and federal grant funds, as well as we're returning to pre-COVID levels of revenue, which is great news. We're playing catch up with some infrastructure items, which some residents have mentioned tonight. And I even wrote in my note here, I wish I could show you, Dennis, such as cleaning up open space. It's right here on my paper. So you'll see that in our Park and Rec and Public Works areas. A lot of our investments are also in stormwater projects and other infrastructure planning projects. Some other inflationary costs are driving some increased expense costs, such as electric, insurance, and gas, which are things that I'm sure anyone in the room is familiar with. Those costs are going up for all of us anywhere, like when you're at the pump and everywhere else. And we have a lot of gas that we pay for here at the Township building. Okay, this is a fun slide. I love this slide because it shows you, so all the residents in the room are probably thinking, wait, my tax bill's not $290, it's way more than that. That's because your tax bill combines your school taxes, your county taxes, the tax that you pay towards the community college, and your municipal tax. But the average residential tax bill in Upper Gwynedd Township, the amount that actually comes to us is $290 for your municipal taxes. And for that, you get all of these services. And this slide shows you sort of in a numerical fashion, based on like a dollar, how much you're paying for those services. For example, my department, administration, you're paying $30.98 per year for the services of the administration department. So Dennis, that's how much you paid for me to battle with Verizon and Pico. I hope you find it worth it if I can get that poll taken care of for you. And the two that are highlighted in blue are Public Works and Police. Those are generally always the most expensive spending items in any municipal budget. And that's because those are really core services that we provide in local governments, roads and public safety. Now, usually they're not so closely matched. Usually police is our most expensive item, but like I mentioned before, we really have a serious investment in infrastructure this year, so you're gonna see additional public works spending. We're going to be spending $92 and $93, for the average tax bill per resident or per household for those services next year. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. Some operational overviews of some of the projects that you'll be seeing from us next year. The first is the hiring of a full-time emergency management coordinator and fire marshal. This is an awesome addition to services for our residents and for public safety in the township. We have a part-time person that we've had in this role for quite a few years. And this year alone, we hired someone new. And within the first, 3 months, we've had 3 house fires, a tropical storm, and a major incident at one of our large industrial businesses. So I can't speak enough to the fact that we need someone in charge of our emergencies. We have the police, we have the fire department, as you saw, but there's people that are experts in emergency management, and we need them here coordinating our major operations, as well as the full-time fire marshal to do some of the preventative things that they do, like going and meeting with the residents at the reserve, and making sure that we're really up to date with all of our fire safety inspections. You're going to see a continued increase in investment in IT. That's something we've really been working on since before I was manager, but I've really been pushing it. I'm sure everyone has seen in the news the instances of municipal and school districts cybersecurity issues. It's a serious issue, and we need to really protect the information that we store here at the township. You're going to see facility upgrades here at our building for safety, compliance, and transparency. Some of those upgrades will be finally fixing the remainder of our roofing issues here at this building, a secure entryway for the township building, an upgraded phone system for the admin building using voice over IP technology, which is old technology at this point, but we are not there yet. You're going to see increased costs associated with our property insurance and liability insurance due to high claim incidences, and cyber reinsurance coverage, which is a rising cost for most businesses. We have increased police costs due to ladder increases and negotiated contractual salary obligations. And we have budgeted for a mid-year hire of a full-time equivalent for public works. We also have continued increased spending on tree removal in the parks and a new park and rec programming focused on preschool and teens. And just because this came up a couple times in the meeting, it's $200,000 that we increased for maintenance for parks this year. Our township engineer, Isaac, is going to be going out and doing a review of all township open space areas to see which are the most critical before we do any major repairs. Okay. That was a real quick overview of the operational items in our general funds. On to our wastewater treatment plant funds, which are proprietary funds. They're separate from our general funds. They're not funded through tax dollars. They're funded through rate dollars. This is the fund that benefits from the WIP project. So across the board, we have huge increases in chemicals, gasoline, electricity, and operational costs associated with the increased flow that we've diverted from Tomenson. There's sort of a list of all of those increased costs there. And this is really an estimate. We knew we increased the flow, but it's not exactly certain. It's an engineering estimate of how much additional chemical we're going to need to treat the flow. And after next year, we're going to get a really better read on that. There were some unexpected things like needing to utilize chemical to treat odor. That's not something we planned for, but we are doing it. So after next year, we'll be able to get a better handle on those numbers, but it's our first year and we'll see how it goes. Either way, it's still at the bottom of the slide. We are reducing a payment of $774,000 to TMA that we no longer have to make because we've brought that flow back to our plan. We're also upgrading camera equipment and computers for our jet truck. I have to share the piece of information that the computer that we use in our jet truck is original, and everyone says it looks like it's got like an OtterBox case, but it doesn't. That's just how old it is. It's that old-fashioned that it looks like a giant brick. So we need to replace that. And we're also looking to do an LED lighting upgrade at the plant, which will save us in future costs. And our fire fund operational overview. This is another separate fund. We have our final progress payments on the new vehicles, 2 new fire vehicles that we'll be getting for the volunteer fire department, and the sale of our old vehicles. We're showing a $3,000 increase in funding to the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department for increased costs associated with heating and medical equipment costs. We're showing reduced costs for the service recognition program, but in turn, we're doing this new budget item, which is a great new program that the fire department suggested for EMT training for fire department members. Very germane to the conversation tonight. We saw how important our volunteers are. We're also allocating $5,000 for grant funding to for grant writing services to the fire department to help bolster their revenues. And also a new item is $15,000 that the board has allocated to North Penn Fire Department, who provides QRS services, which are quick response services. It's a quick medical response team for the portion of the township that kind of resides from here down to Sweetsford Road. Okay, on to capital projects. So this is the point that I wanted to make. Just click it a couple more times, Megan. There we go. When Mr. Henkin had asked, should we maybe consider giving some tax dollars back to the residents? This year, we invested in a really important exercise for a new 5-year capital plan. It started this spring, where I asked our department heads to get together to come up with a really comprehensive 5-year capital plan, which is really a recommended way that state and local governments adopt comprehensive, fiscally sustainable, and multi-year plans to ensure effective management of capital assets. Without these type of planning activities, you can't really look into the future to see what your liabilities are going to be. So this planning resulted in the creation of a plan that includes proposed spending in the amount of $25 million, which has over 143 projects across 7 departments, including administration, facilities, police, public works, fire, parks and recreation, wastewater, and it will be funded through 11 different funding sources, including grants, liquid fuels, capital reserves, rebillable funds, the general fund, the sewer capital fund, the sanitary sewer fund, the fire department funds, and Recovery Act funding. So it's a very comprehensive fund, and if you want to look at the detailed look at those 5 years plans, all of those projects, you can see it in our posted budget once the board votes to advertise it. And those are some of the capital plan funding sources, and you'll see that a big chunk of this pie, one of the 2 biggest chunks, is the general fund. So that's where the millage lies. That's where the tax dollars come from that fund those projects. Something new in our budget, this is sort of that infusion of funding that I spoke about towards our infrastructure projects. This year, the federal government allocated $350 billion nationally for emergency funding for state, local, and territorial and tribal governments. They had several allowable uses. In the board's budget work sessions, they decided to utilize the township's funding to make necessary investments in water and sewer infrastructure. So what are we going to spend our money on? We were allocated just over $1.5 million in funding that we need to spend by the end of 2024. It's a use it or lose it situation. We will be lining the storm sewers in the villages. In the villages, those are older metal pipes. They're all under the sidewalks. So this year, we're going to be using a new technology to go in and line the pipes rather than digging the pipes out and doing a full restoration, which would be a much more, probably triple the cost of the project.
Sandra, just clarify where the villages are.
There, if you go down Allentown Road, they're on the right-hand side. I can't think of the name of the streets.
There's Eric.
Oh, Eric, thank you, yeah.
Gerard, all
Yes.
back in there.
Exactly. We also have some planned infrastructure projects along Sweetsford Estates and Oakland and Meadowbrook neighborhoods, and a Newport Basin restoration. So again, that's another open space project that we plan to restore and bring up to modern requirements. And we can also allocate some of this funding towards wastewater projects. So we plan to rebuild our clarifier number 3. This is a huge tank that clarifies wastewater. It's going to be a 2-year project just because it's such a large project. A lot of things at the wastewater treatment plant are hand-built, from scratch. They're all custom-built. So the theme in 2021 was infrastructure investment planning. I actually took this slide right out of last year's slide deck, which I was excited because last year it didn't have, I feel like we need to do a high five on this one, Isaac. It didn't have the $1.2 million grant. Go ahead, Megan, hit the next. So now it's a grant-funded project in 2022. Next slide. So that project for the bridge, we'll be working on the engineering in 2022 and the construction in 2023. We're also continuing to work on the Haynes Run stream bank restoration projects. This is a picture of the Haynes Run flooding our wastewater treatment plant. And you can see the lists of grant applications that we currently have in. It's $1.4 million of potential grants with DCNR, DCED, and DEP. That's the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the Department of Community and Economic Development, and the Department of Environmental Protection. Whew, I can't believe I got all this. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So we're waiting right now to see if we will get funded for those grant applications. If not, we do have funding available from the capital reserves to get started on the engineering work because we really don't feel that we can wait and have this type of flood hit our $3 million plan again. Well, it was $3 million of damage last time. We don't want to do that again. Other capital projects as planned for 2022, we're looking to do a gate and fencing around the police department and public works to secure our assets. Other security improvements at the Township building, roof repairs, which I spoke of earlier, in-car camera upgrades. We're looking for a pole barn construction to house some of our park and rec equipment. Open space management plan I spoke of earlier. A continued focus on I&I, that's inflow and infiltration in the wastewater treatment plant. The Montco 2040 grant pedestrian safety improvements. And the awesome DVRPC streetlight procurement program that you might have heard about if you were at our last meeting, where we are looking to buy back our streetlights for hopefully an annual savings that looks like around $20,000 a year and convert them to LED lights. Our vehicles planned for replacement next year is a 1-ton dump truck from 2004, a 1 police car. We're looking to purchase a piece of equipment to help us clear trails and sidewalks and replace a 1999 Gator and the 2008 crane truck that we use in wastewater. Here's another slide residents might be interested in. Megan, while I'm talking about this slide, would you mind going to the roads map through Tracer? Great, thanks. See, we can work around the lack of links. So the roads list, next year will be microsurfacing Blue Fox Drive, Patterson Drive, Mifflin Drive, Steuben Drive, Huntington Place, Smallwood Place, and Sullivan Drive. We have ADA ramps improvements planned for our 2023 roadways. This year we were able to play catch up and do the ADA ramps for the 2022 road program, which makes our program a lot more efficient. So next year we plan to mill and overlay Broad Street from Garfield to Sumneytown, Harper Lane, Hemlock Circle, Mendham Drive. That's one of the areas I know we did that ADA ramps. North Lane, Porter's Drive, Pullman Drive, Shearer Street, Spruce Circle, Station Drive, Woodford Lane, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, Chestnut Street, Jones Ave, Sumneytown Pike at Allentown Road, Saplee Place, Saplee Road, Quinn Lane, and Oak Street. We're having a problem. It's okay. Anyway, we have a cool new roads map. I'll show you at another time since our link's not working in the presentation. You can go to the next slide since I read everything while you were trying. So it's slide 22. Okay, so earlier I spoke about the $1.7 million we're going to transfer from our surplus into that savings account in our capital reserve fund. This aggressive funding funding level will enable us to complete projects in our 5-year plan. And in order to really complete those projects in that 5-year plan, we're estimating that we need to transfer at least $315,000 each year in the future next 5 years to be able to complete those projects. So our general fund projected reserve balance, we've talked about this a lot in recent meetings. This is our unrestricted reserve. The funds are meant to be there to keep us steady through any potential hard times. The trend since 2008 has been to have in place between 9.5 and 12.9 months of spending in reserve. As the 2022 proposed budget stands today, it leaves us with 9.9 months of spending in reserves and a very strongly funded capital reserve fund. Last slide, just a quick statement about our debt service and the way the township is with debt. We have a very low amount of current debt at just over $9 million. We have a very large borrowing base still available if we did need to take on any debt. And our most recent loan was refinanced last year, and we reduced the interest rate by over a percentage point. Are there any questions?
Fred Hankin, 802 Clover Drive. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the 2040 pedestrian safety project?
Sure,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That's, we are putting in flashing signalized stop signs at 6 locations in the township and flashing crosswalk signs at 3. I might have that backwards.
I think those numbers are about right.
Yeah.
It's illuminated signage at some of the more tricky intersections that have been identified with the police department and staff.
I think, I don't have it exactly memorized, I may be able to pull it up, but it is a grant-funded project that we're paying only 30% of the total funds for those projects. And it's spread out pretty nicely around the township. All of the locations were recommended by the police department.
Weren't they at the bottom of North Wales Hill?
That's one of them. There's,
Across from
Allentown.
Garfield Park up on.
Yeah, one near Garfield and Allentown.
Mhm.
Can you think of any?
I was trying to bring it up just to not get any of them incorrect, but
Fred, I can email you
I
the
can get back to you on
details
it.
tomorrow.
Acorn Hill.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's, I know where you're talking about, but, oh yeah, you're talking, that area definitely is getting one. Yeah. Any questions from the board?
Good job.
Thank you.
No, you covered it very well. Anybody else have any questions?
Dave Valero, 875 Clover Drive. Just a quick question. Is Wissahickon Watershed property considered township property?
No, it's
Okay.
they're their own private nonprofit
Okay,
organization.
that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Moving right along then.
I hope I don't have to talk for the rest of the meeting.
Item number 10 on the agenda is a motion to authorize the advertisement of Ordinance 2021-07, the tax rate for 2022. That is in our, it's highlighted in blue, so we have some background with that one. Are there any, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any public comment on that? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Next on the agenda is what Sandra alluded to earlier. It's a motion to authorize the advertisement of Ordinance 2021-08, the 2022 Board Appropriations. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. I'm just hurrying along so that we can get to Greg. I know you're like chomping at the bits there. I saw you. Next on the agenda is a motion to approve Resolution 37, 2021, authorizing the auditors to conduct an audit. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 37, 2021? Motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Sandra, you did explain that to us at the workshop last week, so that was helpful when you did that. So I think all of our questions were answered with that. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Next is a motion to approve Resolution 38, 2021, the Homestead Exemption for 2022. Again, it's highlighted in blue. We've all had time to read through this. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Motion, we have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. We're almost there. Next on the agenda, I will turn it over to Vice President Hull.
Thank you, Commissioner McNaney. Mr. Landis, do you have something to share with us?
Well, good evening. Nice job, Senator. That was really awesome. Greg Landis here from Integrated Project Services, representing Merck. With me tonight are Tom Alvarez from Merck Operations and David Bruman from High Swartz, our attorney. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you and ask for your support of our Building 63A manufacturing facility. This is a shot of the site south looking north, and the building is located a little bit off of about 1,300 feet off of South Broad Street and 1,500 feet off of Garfield. I'd like to give that kind of a balance to show that we are far away from residential areas and we are screened on both sides by tall buildings. Next slide. The proposed building will add about 74,000 square feet. It's a two-story facility. The exterior, which I'll show you pictures of, is insulated metal clad siding that will match the existing building that we just finished, which I'll show you as well. This is a two-story building, even though it's 65 feet. It's a mix internally of modular along with stick-built, which is what gives us the support space within the building. First floor being manufacturing, warehouse, loading docks, and some utility support, and then the second floor is the additional manufacturing offices and utility support for the operation upstairs. A lot of interstitial and mechanical, as it fits together as a big puzzle, will create a very functional building when it's all finished. There's the distances that I told you about earlier. One thing about this particular building, when you see the picture, is the project space around the building is very limited. We're plugging in to an existing hole that we left on purpose after knocking down a building back in 2017. And that gave us the ability, or kept us from having the ability to add in a lot of landscaping. So we have added parking and we have added some minor landscaping around the areas to make it as nice as we can in the space allowed. So this is Building 63. This was the building that was approved by you in 2019. We went and built it, and it is right now in qualification, won't be ready for use until next year. But it sits right next to the spot where we're going to open up. Next slide. And you can see a big hole here between, which is to the east of the building, which right now is fairly empty of all the things you see here. This was the construction support for the building we just finished. The new building will drop into this location. Next slide. And first thing I'll say is it's not brown. We could not get the rendering. We could not get the rendering to look silver as it will complement the existing building. So you can see it plugs in there between the existing cooling towers to the left, and then the 63 building to the right. Behind it is a parking garage. What I like about this shot, it shows you landscaping. As you look over the top, you can see some of the 2,800 trees that are on the property right now. And you can see that we are very well landscaped around the property. This is the proposed land development record plan. It has waiver requests, which I'll get to in a later slide. as well as all the standard signature pages. We have shown parking, and we have also shown square footage on here to keep it consistent with other land plans that we have done recently. Next slide. Landscaping plan is really to the north of where the building sits. The building is in the center, and then we're adding parking directly across the street, and that's where the landscaping sits in there. It's low ground cover, juniper bushes that are all Pennsylvania plants that will go into that particular area. As far as activities and information to date, we started this back in September, brought everything into the township. We held the PRC meeting, the Planning Commission. We received their approval in October. We have stormwater capacity in place, and we have submitted our Act 537 mailer, which Sandra signed off on. That is receiving DEP approval, or DEP priority, which we will have back hopefully by the end of the month. We are also working on the Npds permit transfer. We have one for the existing area. We're transferring it from 63 to 63A throughout that project that we delivered everything to them last week. And the building will hold at start about 90 people, some of which will be new hires, some will come from other areas of the site. As far as our reviews, we've completed our engineering review by RVE. We received their memo on 10/27, sent a revised drawing set to them, and delivered one to Megan in the township. County comments, there really were none. Sanitary sewer letter, same, as well as fire marshal. We did receive a letter from the EAC, which had no comments other than ensuring that our plantings were native PA. And then we are, as I said, handling the 537 mailer, which I'll get to Megan when that comes back. And these are the 8 waiver requests we are requesting that are part of the record plan. These are consistent with the last 3 buildings we brought in that you were kind enough to approve. First one is to submit a combination preliminary final plan at one time. And then the second one, to not provide utility and man-made features information within 100 feet of the property line. Third one is to not provide a performance guarantee. 4 is to not to provide a maintenance guarantee. 5, to allow final plan approval without performance and maintenance guarantees, as we have a master agreement with you. 6, to allow an 8-inch stormwater conveyance roof leader pipes. 7, to not sign an operations and maintenance agreement with the township. And 8, to not record an operations maintenance and agreement with the county recorder of deeds, because of the one we have on file with you. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any of your questions.
Do any of the board members have any questions for Greg? Greg, once again, you covered all my notes. You covered everything that was in here. You were very thorough in your presentation. We really appreciate it. You did miss that you're going to be having some new pedestrian pathways, which I was excited to see, because it's always exciting to have more connectivity and walkability. But everything else you brought up, and we really appreciate you being so thorough and working with us. With that being said, if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 40-2021, granting preliminary/final approval of Merck Building 63A Land Development Plan, subject to the conditions set forth in the resolution.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Merck.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the land development plan known as the Hartford/Upper Gwynedd Equities Shops at Upper Gwynedd. This is the Royal Farms property located at 467 Sumneytown Pike. This plan was prepared as a phasing plan, so it's being built in 4 different phases because of all the construction. The first phase has been completed to the township engineer's satisfaction, and the applicant is offering the deed of dedication for improvements of the Sumneytown Pike and Church Road right-of-ways. So that being said, I would like to make a motion to accept and record the deed of dedication dated May 27th, 2020, from Upper Gwynedd Equities offering Sumneytown Pike and Church Road right-of-ways.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment?
Why is it dated 2020?
I didn't hear.
Oh, why is it dated May 27th, 2020?
That is when they submitted the deed of dedication, so sometimes in the beginning of the project, it's prepared. So it was prepared and signed and submitted to us, and now that it's time to accept the dedication, that's when you guys would approve it at the board and we would sign off on it. So they submitted it at the beginning of the project.
Okay.
And that's typical.
Yes.
Typical, it's prepared at the beginning of the project.
It
it's approved
depends.
at a later date.
Some engineers and solicitors like to do it at the beginning of the project, others like to do it at the end. And it was from our solicitor's recommendation, Jim Garrity's firm, to do it at the beginning.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, so we had a motion, we had a second, we had no public, we had a commissioner comment. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Speaking of the same land development plan, now that Phase 1 is complete, the applicant is now requesting to enter the maintenance period for Phase 1. The applicant has provided the cash escrow as required, and our solicitor has prepared the attached maintenance agreement for the dedicated improvements. So I would like to make a motion to approve the maintenance agreement with Upper Gwynedd Equities for the shops at Upper Gwynedd.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Next up, Merck is asking to add some extra crane hours. They are asking for 3 additional Sundays in November and December to dismantle the roof-mounted crane on Building 45. So they had a big, huge crane, and they're done with the work, and so now they need to bring in another crane, a bigger crane, to remove that crane. And they need extra Sundays to possibly do that. They need that permission through both months in case of bad weather. They will be doing that work between 8 a.m. and 1 a.m., I believe it said that. Again, in the past, we have never had any, I shouldn't never say never, but in the past, we haven't had noise complaints about that. If we did, we would, of course, address that. So that being said, I would like to make a motion for the Merck & Company waiver request from Chapter 113-1 and 124-5 for extended work hours utilizing a tower crane for WP 45 for air handler installation, Monday through Sunday, now through December 31st, 2021.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Yes.
Right. Right, but it said you're bringing in a bigger crane to remove that crane.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. All cranes will be gone. We will be craneless at the Merck facility.
Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Sure.
Next on the agenda, Commissioner Carter.
Hello, yes, we have a motion to approve the MOU, Memo of Understanding between Upper Gwynedd Township and the Upper Gwynedd Police Association regarding compensation for off-duty care and training of assigned police canines.
So we have a motion to approve the MOU between the Township and the Police Association. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Sure. Come up to the microphone, please. You could say it again, thank you, just for the record.
No, sure. Hi, Fred Hankin, 802 Clover Drive. Can you explain what an MOU is? I'm not familiar with that terminology, I'm sorry.
A memorandum of understanding. It's the way we outline certain things that maybe not be outlined in the police contracts. So because the K-9 unit's new, And we signed the police contract earlier in the year. We just wanted to outline some details about how the K-9
This
unit.
goes back to my question before about compensation. This is not compensation, or is it, or none, or I'm not quite
So
understanding.
what the chief said earlier is absolutely true. This is a no-cost item. It's just the way that we're structuring the schedule of the officers that work with the K-9 dogs.
Okay, that
So
was-
it's not causing any
I wasn't
additional.
familiar with the term MOU. that's
Yeah.
why. Thank you.
Any additional board comment on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Second, number 19, we also have a motion to approve the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Upper Gwynedd Township and Upper Gwynedd Police Association and Employee 0025.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Next on the agenda, Commissioner Damsker.
Thank you. On agenda number 20, I would like to make a motion to approve dismissing the unreasonably high bid and re-advertising the bid for the 2021-2022 snow plow and equipment program. So it came in, it was outrageously, it was much, much higher than the prior year. So that's the reason that we are rescinding that, and we're going to put it up for bid, and hopefully more companies will bid it at a lower price.
Better yet, we don't get any snow, so we don't need.
Well, I did just want to comment that we mostly do this operation in-house. I think that's why the bid came in high, is we just have a little bit that we're asking for. It's basically only in the event of like a prolonged snow event or blizzard that we need some help. So hopefully we have someone who's interested.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
And then for item number 21, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised county snow and ice contract that we have with Montgomery County.
Sandra, did you want to, you explain that? so
Yes,
well
you may
for the-
recall that this came before the board a few months ago, and I mentioned that a little bit of frustration at the rate that they were going to pay us. Well, they must have gotten that from several other municipalities.
I see they raised it.
Yes, they raised it. So that's wonderful. So this now represents, it's still lower than what they had paid us in the past. But in the end, we maintain, it's local maintenance of the county-owned roads, I think is still better for the residents because we can just get there
Can you put
faster.
that on? Thanks. So they increased it.
They increased it
Well, yeah. So
per
this
the
is-
last revision, but they didn't increase it per our prior contract.
Right.
So it's still,
It's going to cover the years 2021 through 2024, the new
it's still
revised.
now just about 778 less per season, which is much better than what it was originally.
And I think the point that you make, that you said, I think the service to our residents would suffer if we didn't maintain these roadways, even though they are offering us a cheaper rate. I think that's important to point out, because we want to get the streets cleared,
Yeah.
as quickly and as safely as we can, so. All right. So with that, did you make a motion?
Yes,
I'm
I
sorry.
did.
So we have a motion to approve the revised county snow and ice contract. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Next on the agenda, Commissioner Simularo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township staff to send the proposed International Residential Code and the Uniform Construction Code ordinance amendments to the Department of Labor and Industry.
So we have a motion to authorize the township staff to send the proposed information. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Next motion is to approve the 2022 dense soda ash bid to the Thatcher Company of New York, Incorporated, in the amount of $18.50 per 50-pound bag.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
The last motion is to approve the bid award for the wastewater treatment plant gallery painting to J.P. Smith Contractors in the amount of $32,635.
So we have a motion to approve the bid award. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it. Thank you, Commissioner Similaro. Next on the agenda, under other business, item number 25 is the motion to approve the November 2021 open invoices. So we've all had a chance to look through them. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any additional or any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none. Deanna?
President McNaney,
Aye.
Vice President Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Similaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker,
Aye.
The ayes so have it. Thank you, Deanna. Next on the agenda is the motion to approve the November 2021 paid invoices. We have a motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none. Deanna?
President McNaney,
Aye.
Vice President Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Similaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
The ayes so have it. Thank you. Before we call it an evening, we would all like to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Can't believe it's already the end of November. Feels like it out there finally, though it's supposed to get into the 70s again. So wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.